Welcome back to Stellar Horizons campaign gameplay through episode 37, maybe. We are in the year 2125, starting off with the build phase. First up are the North Americans, and they are not building anything right now. They've got some robotic explorers, but they're low on cash. Next up, the Asians. They are going to buy a telescope for $2 billion. And then the Russians, they're going to buy some resources for $4 billion to launch on their LV-4, and they are sending that to fuel. I think what they want I got to think about this for a minute because I'm trying to remember what the plan was. Oh, they're sending it to Venus. Okay. In preparation, they're going to get supplies and an ore. They're going to execute those buys and bring those resources over to Venus. They would like to have a little more fuel to help with settlements. I think that's the plan. If something else comes to me, we'll change it up, but that's the intention, I think. All right, to the movement phase. We've got those guys arriving at Mercury. American CV arriving at Mars. Asian reserved CV at Jupiter, nothing at Saturn. Flyby in a probe. CVs coming in a little closer. And we can see we've made a mistake here. We forgot to do an engine check, I guess, on that flyby and move it. So let's go ahead and fix that. Engine check, no problem. So the flyby could just go to the one box. And this, again, this was just the last turn. But the Americans would like it to go, I think, they get a +3, so 5. They're going to send it to the 4 spot and let it have more attempts. Okay, so then that was last turn, so then these guys all move down. And that's all our transfer box movement. First up, the Americans. Well, the American CV here is coming over to the Redstone base. All right, this American CV, it's got a bunch of ore. It's also reserved. So let's see here. One thing they want to do is bring ore over to the Spirit base. They only really need 3 ore there. But they're going to go ahead and do that. So it's going to move over here to the Spirit base. Nothing there. This guy, do we continue? I think the answer is no. I think it's time to head back to Jupiter. So that's a 1-year trip. What have we got over here? Well, the Americans have 1 reserved CV that needs to go back to Jupiter, and that is a 2-year trip. Distance is 4, and their speed is 0.5. The other American CV is going to stay where it is at. And there's no additional American movement. And they're not launching anything. So next up, the Asians. Let's go ahead and take care of their launch. On an LV2, 27, rocket is recovered. Telescope goes into Earth orbit. All right, Asian CV here. Going to the base with the South Americans. The Asians do have a CV here. It was mining ore. I think it's going to stay at least for another turn. The Tara base is this one. It's got sufficient ore for them to build the next level of defense network, so they're happy with that. Yeah, the Asians are going to stick with that plan. So they're going to keep that one there. This one just got there last time and unloaded a bunch of fuel. So what do they need? Well, Europa is doing fine on supplies and fuel. It's also got a large research station. They could even sell a couple of ore if they wanted to, and they probably will. Let's go ahead and have this guy head out to Saturn to mine some ore. Over here, I think the Asians are going to stick with this. At this location, they're going after the Russians. They would also be going after the Russians there, but this crewed vehicle has less of a chance of getting a depletion, and it also helps interfere with the Americans, possibly. So they're going to move over there. Nothing there. So that is all of the Asians' movement. Next up, the Russians. Let's go ahead and launch these resources on an LV4 to Venus. 72, the rocket is recovered, and these resources make it over to Venus. What's next? Russian orbiter wants to move out to the Sun observation spot 26. No problem. Tchaikovsky is gonna, or Tolskovsky, I don't know how you pronounce that. It's not Tchaikovsky. We've got these Russians. All right. So, what was the plan here? Well, the CV3 is going to go back to the Russian base to pick up a few more resources. To bring over to this base. And then this CV4 is going to head to Mars so that it can pick up the ore that they're going to buy and take it to Venus. So that's all the Russian movement over there. There's nothing here at Jupiter, nothing at Saturn. The Russians will stick with this plan. And that is all of the Russian movement. All right, exploration. Starting with the Russian orbiter. Mercury. That's an 8. Success, no malfunction. Physics. Jet pull. Sorry. Was short corded there. Physics markers are getting low, so we'll probably be having to pause and count that up. They got a 2. Next up for the Russians in exploration, I'm sure there's nothing until we get out to Uranus, where they've got 2 CVs and a flyby. Oh, and a probe. So they're going to use the probe here. I think, or what does that probe look like? An 11 plus 6. That's 17. Yeah, they'll go ahead and just use it here. So they'll use the probe, and we said that's a 17. So they get 2 physics markers for Uranus, a 3, depletion, and a 2. That earns the Russians a political marker. The 2 goes down to a 1. And the world card, silicate rocks, does not apply. And then an engine check for the, life check. No, yeah, 2%. And then a flyby. Engine check. So first the life. No life, engine, all good. So it heads on to Neptune. And it's a 1 year, and I think they're going to go ahead and go with the 1 year. If they're going to make it a longer trip, it probably makes more sense to do that at the Kuiper belt, because these numbers are dropping and will continue to drop. Let's go ahead and get the crewed vehicles. This guy is a 10, plus 2 is 12, and he gets 2 red dice. %7 is a recall. They did get the 2. So it's 2 engineering markers, and then a biology marker. Engineering 1, marker 1 is a 3, so they've already got their depletion. And the second one, a 5. Wow, that's a lot of engineering points. Biology. I'd love to get a really good high number here. Well, they got 3. So and we said that's a depletion at this location. This guy got flipped. We're going to need a 1 marker. We need a political marker. World card. Hydrogen, so it does not apply. And the life check there is 5%. $71. So this guy's done. Next one up. CV5 is a 9 plus 2, an 11. Only one red die. They got the 1. They also got a 15, so another recall. And 2 more engineering checks. First one is a 2, so they're going to get another depletion. Second marker is a 1. And the biology, also a 1. So this guy's going to flip. Sorry, wrong guy. Life check here, 4%. We need to change the 2 to a 1. Pull a world card. World card is Silicate Rocks, which is what's there. Life check, 4%. $31. Okay. Nothing more here. So let's see here. The Russians. Now we just did this flyby, so we're not doing it again. But I think they have another flyby, the 2. So the 2 flyby is I'm just going to make a second stack for everybody who's gone. So that's a 4, and they'll target Triton, which is a 7. 4 plus 7 is 11 minus 1. So it's automatic, 10. Malfunction, 25. They're okay. Triton is physics. That was the last physics marker. It's a 1. And that is it for the Russians. Next up, the Asians. Their orbiter. Go ahead and roll first, but we'll probably be pausing. Yeah, it's an 8, 39, so I'm going to pause for a minute and count up the physics markers, and we'll be back. Okay, that time the Russians had 27, the Americans had 26, and the Asians had 20. So a little closer, but the Russians are doing much better on technology this time around, and the Asians are not doing as well. The tech pull for the Asian orbiter is a 1. That was the Asian orbiter. Asian telescope, they are going to keep on going after the Kuiper belt. It's a 3 plus 3, 6. They got a 7 and a 52. Next up for the Asians, I've got this crude vehicle 4. So it's a 9 plus 1 is 10. They're getting 1 marker and just rolling for recall. 58, engineering marker. Is a 2. All right, they've got an orbiter and they have a flyby. Their flyby, let's do the flyby first. Flyby is plus 2, so 3, and 7 is 10, minus 1 is 9. successful, but also a malfunction. So, physics for Triton. So 1, engineering, also a 1. So just not getting lucky on their pulls, and that flyby is out. Next up, their orbiter. I think they will target just looking to see physics and engineering. They're both about the same, so they'll go for the sure thing. That's going to be a 5 plus 7 minus 1, so an 11. But they got a 2% on their malfunction, so they're getting a physics pull for Triton and then another engineering marker. They did get a depletion. They got a 3. Engineering also a 3, so that's a little better. Political marker, just their 3rd. Orbiter has a spectrometer. Let's see here, 5 goes down to 4. Two world cards for Triton. S-class asteroid and silicate rocks. They're not going to take you. Well, now this is an interesting choice. Icy volcanic. No, they can't. I think if they could, they might get rid of the volcanoes because they're malfunctioning now, and they're not going to be able to take advantage of what's going on out here. And I suspect by the time they get back here, most of these things, most of the exploration will be done. There is a life check that we'd have to do, 7%. And I may have missed one a minute ago, I'm not sure. 59. So the Asians are kind of out of, what do they have left? They've got a flyby there, they've got the orbiter at the sun, and the telescope. They're going to do this flyby, which is a 4 plus 6 is 10 minus 2, 8. Success and a 71, no malfunction. Physics pull is a 1. And that is the end of the explorations for the Asians. Finally, the Americans, and they do not have anything in the inner system. So the Americans have this crewed vehicle. It's a 9 plus 1 is 10, so it gets the success, but no chance of pulling 2 markers. Recall 49, no recall. Engineering marker is a 2. Next up for the Americans, they've got a flyby with a probe. They're going to risk it. So it's a 6 plus 6 is 12 minus 1, 11. just the one physics marker, no malfunction. Physics was a 1. Next up, and that was their flyby and probe. So we'll stack these back up here. Well, it's all arriving next turn. Orbiter, the orbiter is a 5. That's engineering. Just looking at their numbers, they need more engineering though, a little bit. Or maybe they don't. I think they will. They're going to target this location, so it's an orbiter. There is a bonus +1, which offsets the distance. So 5 + 4 is 9. And that was a 6, so a success. Engineering was a 1. And this orbiter can't help them, but the flyby is a 5, and they'll target Pluto. So an 11 minus 3, 8. %, malfunction. Successful physics pull. It's a 2. Engineering, a 1. And the American flyby is out. That's all of the exploration. Remote mining. Well, let's see here. The Asians are going to do it there. The Americans, nope, they're gone. It looks like all there is the Asians mining ore at Vesta. Roll that. They got a 9 and a 33, so 1 ore. Next up, trade and base construction phase. Let's see here, the Russians are buying ore at the Vostok base. Vostok has 8 settlements, so it can buy 8 ore, which will cost them 4 billion. $1 change, and we said that's 8 ore. The Asians are going to be selling 6 fuel to the South Americans for 12 billion. And I guess the only trade marker left on the board is that, well, there's the stuff at Jupiter that nobody's doing yet. Not really worrying about those right now. And the Americans are planning, they're going to load up a little more fuel and bring it over to the asteroid belt. So that's all the trades. Base construction. There is quite a bit. of that, although this is Redstone, this is Mars. The Americans are also going to, everybody's switching to research. I'm just going to stack it on the rocket for now. Nothing else. Russians, let's see here, obviously nothing at Mir. Zatsava, that is the asteroid belt. They're going to wait because they've got a crewed vehicle that's about to load up some resources. If they've got enough ore left over, and I don't think they will, they'll maybe build a large defense network. Ruskaya is going to go 2 and 2. That's 6 and 6 here, so let's bring back 2 supplies, and looks like I need some more ores. They're going to upgrade the small research station to a large one, and now they can build 2 settlements. Vostok base on Mars, nothing. Oh, they still need to get some supplies out here so that they can upgrade the small to a large. This is Teslina, Selena. They're going to upgrade this one. We hardly did research stations, and now all of a sudden they are in hot demand. Mars. Sorry, Mercury. I'll get it this time. Venus. 1 and 1. For a small mining station. The Asians, nothing at Mars. This is Jupiter. They've already got their large research station. I'm just thinking. They could build a launch vehicle with 1 ore and some number of fuel, and then they would have 2 ore left over, which would let them build this flyby if they wanted to. I guess we'll think about that. This is Tara. This is the asteroid belt base, and they wanted to upgrade this to a large defense network, and that's going to cost 6 ore. Mining base at the asteroid belt, I'm sorry, at Phobos Deimos, and this is the Spirit, or the T base. It's the Ceres base. Nothing going on there now. Okay, that's our turn. So we are on to 2126. We'll be back in a minute with the builds. Okay, and we're back with the builds. North Americans are not building anything. Next up, the Asians. They've got some launch vehicles. They're going to buy an orbiter for $4 billion. We're most of the way through the decade. Their plan is to send it out to the Kuiper Belt. It's not going to have much of effect this decade, but I think that going ahead and getting it out there is a good idea for the following decade. And the Russians are spending $4 billion on some more resources. They're going to send these to Mars so that they'll be able to, all they really need is the 2 supplies to upgrade the small research station. And since they're using a launch vehicle, they'll go ahead and spend another $2 to have 1 fuel, 1 supply, so that a crewed vehicle could be resupplied there. Of course, the Mars base only has a small spaceport, so it can only service up to a CV-5. There's probably no situation. I guess maybe they would rather have the money. So let's give them $2 billion back. Yeah, I was thinking be prepared, but Mars is not really doing a whole lot for the Russians at this point. They've got a large supply port at Earth and the asteroid belt. So from either direction, they can handle resupplying ships. So that is the builds. Let's go to the transfer box movement. Russian CV4. We forgot to move this Asian back to the base at Europa. So let's fix, they will of course spend a fuel and a supply. To get that, so that was last turn that that guy was going to move in. So he's ready to go. Okay, we were doing transfer box movement. These guys come in. Is this Russian? No, American. Okay. Asian. The big old American CV-8, which is mighty impressive and hasn't done a damn thing this decade. Flyby, flyby, flyby with a probe and an orbiter. Orbiter here, flyby there. Okay, first up, American movement. Crewed vehicle at Mars is going to load up. It's, I'm trying to think, do they want to do something other than just, that's right here, do they want to take more supplies? They certainly want, they're going to sell fuel at the Freedom Base, and they're going to sell 8 fuel. And that guy's got a cargo capacity of 8. So I think they're just going to take a bunch of fuel. So it's already got 5, loading the other 3, and heading to the asteroid belt. Let's see here. I think we screwed this up last time. Okay, so this crewed vehicle with the ore had moved in last turn. And that's the Spirit base. So they would have built. So we're going to go ahead and let them do their small research station build from last turn, although it's not going to matter. And okay, now they really only need 2 and 2 left. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8. I think the Americans are going to be happy to leave that at Spirit and load that up on the crewed vehicle. And then the question is, do they want to take it to the Freedom base? Or do they want to take it out to the asteroid belt? And I think the answer is the asteroid belt. So this guy is loading up these resources from here. Spirit base. Asteroid belt to Jupiter is a 1-year journey. So that's the situation there. Next movement, this guy is coming into the Prosperity base. I'm trying to remember what, and so is this one. And I'm just going to leave them side stacked. Might as well move the 10 ore. Because the Americans are still looking to probably build a base at Callisto and get a large research station. Can they do it? Yeah, they can do that in 2 turns. They can get a settlement on there. That would be even better. I think they can do that as well. Get a trade marker. Okay, I think that's the Americans' goal. Other American movements. Well, so there's only the Asians have the best crewed, or get to go first. It's not the best crewed vehicle. These Russian ones are going to be gone. So, and the Asians have another one coming in. So they got to figure, okay, the Asians are going to go to each place, so the Americans might as well go 1 and 1. Over here, American flyby. Orbiter needs to make a engine check. It's going to move to the Kuiper belt. '93. So that is all of the Americans movement. Next up, the Asians. Let's go ahead and launch their orbiter on an LV-4 for the Kuiper belt. 86, the rocket is recovered. It's a 6-year journey, and they subtract 3. And they will also, in this case, spend $1. And they're going to go, they should have put the probe on there. They'll use it up in 3 years. and they're not going to be launching any more flybys, I don't believe. All right, other Asian movements. Nothing here. That's not true. So this crewed vehicle, so what does it need to do? They need to get resources that they're going to buy on Earth and take them to Mars. So go to Earth, 1 year trip. I think they will continue to mine ore there. Or do they need to go ahead? So let's do the math here. If they want to yeah, they're going to keep on mining ore. They'll use rockets if we need to. I'm just trying to think about getting resources to Mars and what do they need to get so that they can build 2 more settlements by the end of the decade. Let's see here, this guy, yeah, mining ore. We'll need to move that crewed vehicle. This one came to mine ore as well. The Asians are, nope, they've got plenty of fuel. They've got 2 guys mining ore, and so I guess they're going to, no, this doesn't have resource mining. So what should it do? Well, heading out to Uranus is a waste of time. It can either stay at Europa and guard Europa, they can send it inward to the asteroid belt. So I think they're going to send it to the asteroid belt. It may turn around and move somewhere else, but as far as kind of responding to a military situation, it's 1 year back to Jupiter, it's 1 year back to Mars. I think they'll keep it at the asteroid belt. So we move that. This CV5 is going to come there. They're kind of wasting the CV4. That's probably kind of a waste. You know, it does have the highest exploration value, or for them, but it's been doing explorations, and it could have been doing resource mining. And there is nothing else for the Asians out here. Finally, the Russians. This crewed vehicle heading back to Earth. This guy is going to the Mars base, which is Vostok, yes, and it's going to load up 6 ore. Let's go ahead and do the launch. It's just 2 resources on an LV4. Rocket is recovered in those 2 supplies. Make it out to the Vostok base so they can upgrade their research station. this crewed vehicle. So let's take a look. Okay, so that's Zatsaba base right here. It's got a large spaceport. It's got a small mining station and a small defense network. Well, a large defense network would be good. They could also upgrade the small mining station to a large one. Wouldn't be terrible. Small defense network costs 6 ore, so it's one or the other right now with these resources. What is the advantage to them? So they can build 2 settlements right now. They've got fuel for a third. They would need these 4 resources moved over there to Ruskaya if they want to build the 3rd settlement. And the 3rd settlement would get them a +1 tech. So they can do +1 biology. They could get +1 resource mining, or they can have more defenses. I think they are going to keep it as it is. So with that in mind, they're going to come over. Now, do they want to mine more ore? They're losing. The Russians are going to be in a real pinch for resource production because they're researching there. They're going to research there and there and there, but not here. So they're going to have the asteroid belt mining ore and Venus probably mining ore. So they're going to need supplies and fuel. So they could stay here, or they can head back out to Jupiter and mine fuel or supplies at Callisto. So I think they'll do that. All right, Russian CVs here that are both reserved. Heading back to Jupiter, and that's a 2-year journey. Russian orbiter wants to come in. So that's an engine check. 86, that's good. So now we're just down to these flybys. And that looks like all of the movement. Explorations, Russian orbiter here at the sun. It's an 88 and a 4, so a physics marker. A 3, that's a depletion. That's finally we're getting a depletion there. Of course, there's not much to it. There's no world card. There's no life check. It just depletes. So here, nothing else exploration-wise. There, so, and the Russians are out of everything at Uranus, but they've got quite a bit going on out here. And they've got their choice of physics and engineering. Well, the orbiter is going to go here, so that's a 4 plus 4 is 8. Or do they go ahead? 4 plus 6 is 10, so that's a 9. I guess they'll do that. They'll do the 9 at Triton. And they got a 5 as success, but a 19. So another malfunction. That didn't That didn't last long. A 1 for the physics. Engineering. 2. And that Russian orbiter comes off. Next up, Russian flyby. Let's do the 2. So it's a 4 plus 6, 10 automatic. $47. And then we'll do the engine check. 51. So they're pulling a physics marker for Triton. It's a 2. And how far out do they want to send this guy? I think they'll put it in the 3 box. Next one up, this flyby is going to target these moons. That's engineering type. Gets a +1, so let's see here. It's a 5 plus 5, 10 automatic. But they got a 12%, so there's a malfunction. Getting unlucky all of a sudden. Engineering is a 2. The malfunction is a 1. And we already did this flyby. So that is all of the Russians' explorations. Next up, the Asians. Let's start off with their orbiter at the sun. That is now a 7. Got a 1 and a 1%. So physics. Is a 2. Engineering for the malfunction is a 1. They're getting a lot of 1s. And the Asian orbiter's out. Telescope. They're going to stick with the Kuiper belt. So that is a 6. Success, 61. Physics. Feeling lucky, but no, it's a 1. So that was the telescope. The Asians have their crewed vehicles. Excuse me, we'll do this 5 first. So it's an 8 plus 1 is 9. A 4 is a success, and a 2% is a recall. So that's an engineering marker, and then a biology. Engineering is a 1. And they are just grinding it out, one at a time. Oh, they got lucky with the biology. It's a 5. And that guy flips over. Next one is 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Automatic. Just rolling for the recall. 43, they're good. Engineering marker. 3. So that's a depletion. Earns them a political marker. I'm going to trade out one of the 1s. Let's see here. The 1's going to, nope, Wrong place. 1 goes to 0. World card. It's Icy Rocky Moons. Minimal gravity. We got escarpments, so they could put that on there. Makes it a little bit better. Sorry, I'm holding it off to the side. It's a little bit better than the silicate rocks, but ultimately this location is not going to be very interesting. So I think they'll just leave the silicate rocks. And the life check 4%. And that's an 86, so no life. And I don't think the Asians do have this flyby. So it's a 4. They'll target. They're going to go for the Kuiper belt. So 4 plus 5 is 9, minus 1 is 8. Oh, bad choice. 22 and a 10. And what else? That's an orbiter. Okay. That's all the Asians' explorations. Finally, the Americans, they don't have anything out here until we get to the big ones. Let's do the Endeavour first. It's a 9. Oh, sorry, the Endeavour has nothing to explore. Constitution is an 11. Plus 1 is 12, and he gets to roll 2 red dice. So just the 1 engineering marker. But he got a 5. These guys had plenty of time to practice looking at rocks, or thinking about looking at rocks, on their way from Earth. So, what are we doing? Political marker. The 1 turns to 0, and the crewed vehicles have nothing else to do here. That can only be explored with a flyby or a probe or an orbiter. The world card. I guess the telescope could do it too. S-class asteroid. They could apply it. It's minimal gravity. And I think they will. They'd rather have the mixed ice back in the shuffle. Excuse me. Life check 5%. $73, no life. Next up for the Americans, they'll do this orbiter at Triton. So it's a 5 plus 6 minus 1. That sounds like 10. 55. So a physics marker for Triton. 3. They're having a little better luck. The Asians keep on pulling all those ones out for them. Triton is going to a 3. It's got a spectrometer, so 2 world cards. M-class asteroid and mixed ice. They could apply the mixed ice, but I think they like the idea of the volcanoes. Triton's quite a nice spot for mining resources, or at least ore and fuel. The probe is going to get used here. So a 9 plus 3 is 12 plus 9. Well, we have never had an exploration value that high, I don't think. So that's 21. So they're going to automatically get 2. And they are rolling for a 3rd. Just the 2. So 2 physics markers at Neptune. First is a 1. Next one is a 2. And then we need to do an engine check for that flyby. 97. And that flyby is going to go to the 4 box. The Americans have this orbiter. Which is a 4. And they're going to target the Kuiper belt, so we say 4 plus 7 is an 11. I got a 7, so it's okay, and 17 is close, but they are, 15 is their malfunction, so they're okay. Physics marker. Is a 2. I guess what I really need is a wireless mic so I don't have to haul you guys around when I'm moving down the table to put chits where they belong. I think that's all the explorations. Yeah, I'm really surprised or I did not expect the way that once the exploration and the tech gets going, when something becomes available, it just gets stripped down to nothing really quick. Uranus lasted, I mean, there was a little bit over here, but what? Everybody headed here on the first turn, so within 6 years after being in range, and obviously nobody was here on the year 1, so just didn't take any time at all for that to get explored out. Neptune would go even faster because The robotic explorers have already pushed this one down some. The Kuiper belt still 2 6s and a 5, and then I think the scattered disc is always going to be kind of a, leave that to the robotic explorers. Send a CV out that far and you're not going to see it again for a while. Okay, after explorations we have the remote mining. And the Asians are doing it there, the Asians are doing it there. And I think that is, that's interesting. I felt like we had, I knew the Russians were trying to do something, but they were coming from the asteroid belt, heading for Callisto. Okay, so Asians at Vesta. And a 2, they get to subtract 1, so that is going to be 3 or so I put it on there. It was not in frame. Next one, this guy, the Enam CV3. And the target number was an 8, so that's good. 2 or. Yeah, that's it for remote mining. Trade and base construction phase. So first the trades. We don't have any. That's not true. The Russians do want to go ahead and execute now on buying supplies at Mir. The Mir base has a population of 5, so they can buy 6 supplies. I'll put it, of course, I'll put it here. That's going to cost them 3 billion. And then next turn, the crewed vehicle, I guess it doesn't matter. It would have, they could do it now or next turn. So that's all the trades. Base construction. Let's take a look. Americans are going to, they don't have any ore here at Redstone. And the Spirit base is going to upgrade. So the Americans need to figure out how to get 2 ore to Redstone. Okay. I guess they're not doing anything about that right now. They may just need to build a small launch vehicle and launch it from Earth. Okay. And I don't. So what are they doing at Prosperity Base? Let's be. be a little more proactive. It's either settlements, upgrading the mining facility. Of course, early on, getting lots of fuel seemed very helpful, and it certainly still is, I think, but I guess before they do anything, they want to make sure that they've got the resources that they need for a Callisto base. So I think we'll just pass on building anything at the Jupiter base this turn. Okay, Russians. Mir, no. Vostok, yes. Upgrading to a large research station. I forget what we decided, but I think it's going to be upgrading the small mining station to a large one. And here they'll just go ahead and build a settlement. What are we doing here at Venus? They've already got their small mining station. They're waiting on more resources. Out at Jupiter, they could go to 3 settlements, which certainly they would like to do that. They want to sell some ore. I think at a minimum just to clear it off. Ore is not the best trade marker for that location. No, they don't want to do anything right now. They've got 2 reserved ships coming in, and they only have 1 fuel. And so no, they're definitely not going to spend that fuel. So I think they're done. Asians can't do anything at Mars. They've already upgraded to their large defense network, so they're kind of set here. If they had more fuel, they could build settlements out at Jupiter, at Europa. Got fuel and supplies. They're mining for ore with a couple of ships on these bases, so I think they're done. Well, that looks like we're done then. So base builds are done. That is, we're heading into the final 3 turns of the decade. I guess we will try to do that as a marathon session. And so we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.